Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to be looking at the step 3 column of the name and explain chart. And in this column, the idea is that we highlight or underline the words or groups of words that we believe contain important ideas and explain why we think they're important. So when I was reading the poem, there were a few things that kind of stuck out to me because ideas were repeated. And I know that when authors repeat ideas in a piece of writing, that it's probably important. So one thing that I saw repeated a few times was the idea of age. And I'm going to highlight the things that have to do with age in the color pink. So the first thing I saw that had to do with age is that the person that is talking about when he was 12 years old. And it's interesting because he's not telling it from the point of view of a 12-year-old. It's somebody older looking back at when they were 12. So that was kind of interesting. Another thing that I noticed that had to do with age was they went by a used car lot, and used cars are old cars that people don't want anymore. And this poem is all about young love and first love. So it was an interesting contrast to think about the old car and the car lot compared to like the new love. And I also noticed the newly planted trees because they're very young and growing, just like the person is talking about this love that's very young and new and growing. And then another thing that I noticed that had to do with age was on the second page actually, or the back. Maybe it would be the back for y'all if it's copied. I don't know how your teacher copied it. It really depends. And the lady, their eyes met, and she knew what he was talking about, and that could have had something to do with her age. She's seen this all happen before. It's not exactly age, but it kind of made me think of it because she seemed older. And then the other thing I saw with age was the fog was hanging like old coats. And so again, we've got that contrast of something old right next to something new. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the idea of age. So it's somebody looking back on youth. They're looking back. So that's the contrast of old and new because it's someone old looking back. And the old cars and the young trees and the old coats and the young people. So that is what I came up with for age. Another thing that I saw that was repeated or that was mentioned a lot was color. There were a bunch of different colors mentioned. So I'm going to use orange to highlight my ideas about color. So the very first thing, I know that oranges in the poem is talking about like the fruit, but orange is also a color. I mean, it is. So I'm going to also highlight that for color as well. And he talked about her yellow porch light, right? And the gray December, that contrast, like the yellow porch light is so welcoming in any weather. And so I thought that was really cool. And then her cheeks were rouge, bright with rouge, right? And so she's all warm and pinky and everything, and it's all this gray day. So I thought that was kind of cool. Again, we have contrast of everything having to do with her is welcoming and colorful, and everything about the day is gray, right? And so on the second page or on the back, it talks about that gray of December, right? And the oranges are also bright against the gray of December. And so I thought that was really cool. Again, it's all about the contrasts. Color. The colorful things are associated with the girl. And it just goes to show that, right, maybe the rest of this kid's life is kind of gray and boring and everything, but you can tell he really likes the girl because she's got all the color and the warmth, right? And that's contrasted with the gray and the fog again, that gray fog, the gray setting. So I thought that was really cool, the color. And the same kind of thing, that same contrast is the idea of cold or temperature, and I'll do that blue. That makes sense, right? We always do blue stuff is kind of cold, like frozen, right? So he talks about being cold, and it's December, and there's the frost, and the breath is, you can see the breath before him, and so that just goes to show it's cold. But again, she's warm, so she's pulling at her gloves. That's a sign of warmth, and the red face has to do with being warm. And then on the back, and he talks about the fire in the hands. The orange is like the fire in the hands, and the orange is like the orange fruit, but he's feeling all warm because he's with his girl. So that warmth that comes with love, right? The day is cold, but the love is hot, right? I'll put warm. Uh-oh, my light turned off. Pause. Okay, that was kind of funny. I'm in a room that has a sensor, and I guess I was too still because my light turned off, but I hope that didn't ruin your learning experience. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is unspoken communication. I noticed a lot of that in the poem. And so I'm going to do that in green. And I only have 4 highlighters, so I'm not showing you anything else after this because I don't have any more colors. But there's a lot of unspoken communication, right? He smiles and touches her shoulder and leads her without saying anything. And when they're in the store, the girl communicates because she has a light in her eyes and a smile at the corner of her mouth that lets him know she's excited about this candy and probably about the day too. I mean, her face being all bright, right? Her face is bright. That has to do with unspoken communication too, because he's kind of nervous, right? He's weighed down with the oranges and the jacket, like a little nervous, and she comes out all bright faced. He knows she likes him too. It's not just him in this. She likes him. She likes him. And then the lady's eyes meets his and held them, knowing very well what it was all about. He didn't have to tell her, hey, listen, lady, I don't have enough money to pay for the chocolate, and I really like this girl, and I need to impress her. I need to buy the chocolate. They just looked at each other, and the lady knew what was up. She knew she needed to help out this kid so he could get his girl. And there's also unspoken communication when he takes the hand, and then he releases it because he knows she wants to eat the chocolate. So there's a lot of unspoken communication in this poem, and that seems like an important thing. And that has to do with love and flirting, right? You don't awkwardly flirt and just go up to say to someone, hey, I like you, do you like me? Like, there's usually kind of some looks and stuff that go along with it. You know, you have to make inferences when you're flirting and when you're newly in love. You don't just say things. When you're old and married, you just say stuff. But when it's new, there's a lot of unspoken communication.